Hello everyone, today we'll be taking a look at a lesser known Switch game, a European import that's been in my backlog since last year called Monkeys of Shaolin. It has a somewhat interesting background as it was developed by an independent Russian team called Sobaka Studio and had a few different publishers depending on what country you are from. That being said, the game is available in all regions on the eShop as well as some other platforms, but was only released physically on the Switch outside of the US, which is the version that I reviewed. Let's take a look. In Monkeys of Shaolin, you'll be playing as a Chinese fisherman who was the last man standing after their home village is attacked and destroyed by bandits. You will be avenging the death of your family by developing the weapon and magic skills needed to become a master of Shaolin with the help of monks to guide you along the way. From what I read online, in addition to playing through the game, it incorporates some real-life locations and myths, but I think the vast majority was made up for the game's premise, as they do sprinkle in plenty of humor in this revenge story. Regardless, the story fits the gameplay nicely, as this is a true old-school beat-em-up game and gives you plenty of reason to get to the end and beat up anyone who gets in your way.
Only round one. However, I must admit that their leader, despite fighting with the grace of a drunk pelican, possesses superhuman strength.
You begin the adventure with just a handful of very basic skills and moves, but after every mission you will be able to improve your character to your liking and preferred style of gameplay through different skill trees at your base camp. This will allow you to defeat stronger enemies in the long run, and eventually you'll be juggling quite the collection of attacks and weapons that make you feel like you have become the master you set out to be. The gameplay itself mostly involves methodically picking off groups of enemies by identifying their weakness, using counter moves, and using the best attack to disarm them. It would usually take me a couple tries to beat any given level, but deaths on the normal difficulty setting are not too frustrating and mostly came from me simply not being that great at games like this versus anything unfair about the game itself. There are several difficulty levels to choose from to your liking depending on what type of game you want to play. For me, occasionally when dealing with a ton of enemies at once can involve a ton of dodging that gets a little bit old, but once you develop more advanced techniques, it isn't nearly as important. There are also different kinds of tea you collect that provide health, chi, or other kinds of benefits during the levels themselves. Obviously, the game is repetitive in nature, but also doesn't overstay its welcome at all, so I think that mostly offsets when it's all said and done. I also want to note that the game is entirely playable in co-op mode locally, and the few levels that I tested this feature with made the game even more enjoyable. The game apparently has an online option, but just attempts to load indefinitely when selected, so I think this is just a placeholder left over when porting from PC and other platforms to the Switch. Regardless, definitely check out the local co-op mode for added replay value and reduced frustrations. At the base camp where you can launch co-op, you can also collect hidden objects, turn on secrets, replay levels to gain additional skill points, and change your weapons and clothing, which each provide different types of gameplay boosts. I like how you can cater the RPG elements to your liking and find the best combination of moves that fits your style.
That's why the Wuku came here. It's not safe to leave the relic here, especially since I killed it.
So the beat-em-up old-school style of games is relatively timeless, but if you couldn't tell, is also a genre I never really play, nor have much interest in. Honestly, the sole reason I bought this game in the first place was I thought the environments looked cool. That was pretty much it. Something about the lighting, colors, and style got my attention, and I was mostly right about that. Each mission had a unique appearance which helped disguise the fact that you were killing off the same hordes of enemies over and over again. The environments, however, did not play as much of a role in changing up the formula as I would have liked, which was a little bit disappointing to see. There is a small element of physical obstacles and surprises, though, to keep you on your toes. I should note that from a technical perspective, the game never really stuttered to me ever, even when a lot was happening on the screen in both handheld and docked modes, so props to the development team on the technical side. In the end, 9 Monkeys of Shaolin scores a 75. The game is essentially everything you would want and expect from a budget level 2.5D side-scrolling fighting game, and while there is nothing that makes the game stand out necessarily, there's also nothing that really holds it back either. Some of you will understandably find the game repetitive, but this can be combated by shorter play sessions. I do wish there was a bit more involvement to the gameplay, but the additional powers you gain as you progress through the story was just enough to hold my attention and keep things fresh. The game can be easily recommended to anyone who is a fan of fighting games, and I am happy to have it as part of my Switch collection.